Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to our channel. It's Dave Duford. I'm here with Simone and our telesales trainer, Tim. We're here today to talk about Simone's early success in our final expense telesales broker program. He wrote 4,500 in AP just last week, completely over the phone using self-generated leads. We're going to have a quick conversation about how Simone got into the business, why he chose to work with us, and why he chooses to use a self-generation process to generate leads instead of buy leads. So first of all, Simone, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate
and Tim, our trainer for Final Expense Telesales Agents. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for being here. So Simone, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to dive into the final expense arena.
I was originally working at a different agency, and it wasn't specific, wasn't really working with any particular product. But I started looking into self-generating leads on Facebook, and a lot of the examples that I was being given were for final expense specific. So that's actually how I got interested.
So you found it through just that's interesting. So you're with the other company and you're exploring lead ideas, and that's how you discovered final expense. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Because before, where I was before, they provided leads, but I just figured I would experiment and see what I could come up with myself. So yeah.
Right. And with the other company, were you doing telesales at the time, or were you doing face-to-face?
It was Zoom calls.
Zoom-based. What is Zoom-based calls like? I'm curious if you would kind of describe that. How does that compare to telesales? Because you're doing final expense telesales now with us. What's similar? What's different?
I think because there is that extra dimension, that visual element, maybe a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Telesales, it's strictly just your tonality and delivery, and that's pretty much all you're leaning on to build trust. I'd say with Zoom, if you can get somebody on Zoom, that can be the hard part sometimes.
Right.
As you can imagine, especially with like older folks that aren't really tech savvy. But yeah, it can make a pretty big difference if they can see your face, see that you're a real person. Yeah.
Do you feel like with final expense, meaning old people, that Zoom is a strategy that might work, or do you feel like you'd be up against more resistance getting the elderly on a Zoom-based conversation?
Yeah, I think I don't think that it would be worth it necessarily. A lot of people, they don't really want you to be looking at them. They'd rather just kind of like just over the phone. People don't always like to be seen, I think. They kind of want their privacy.
Sure.
But especially if they're older, they're usually not very tech savvy. And I remember running appointments sometimes like be like 30 minutes just trying to get somebody on Zoom.
That's old Mildred for you. That's
yeah.
That's funny. Well, I appreciate you clarifying that, because that's a conversation point that comes up from time to time with new agents is, hey, let's just do everything over Zoom, and it's kind of the best of both worlds, remote and kind of, telesales, I guess. But I think the application actually, especially with final expense, strictly speaking here, is it's hopeful at best. I think over time it'll get better, but right now telesales is kind of where, the effort really is. So you found out about final expense. How did you find out about Duford Insurance Group, and why did you decide to jump in with us?
I found out through YouTube, like I think probably most people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I decided to apply and see if it was a good fit in the first place was there's just a lot of sort of, I guess, sort of like shadier things that can go on in the industry where like certain pieces of information are withheld from agents, kind of like smoke and mirrors. And the impression that I was getting from your videos when I would watch them was just like very transparent, very straightforward, which was really refreshing, I would say. There wasn't really anything being sugar coated. It was just very honest, and I think that was a big part of me switching over. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a big thing for me, of course, is kind of being the antithesis of what the norm is, which is a lack of transparency and a whole lot of Kool-Aid. So thank you. So you joined, we accepted you. And of course, Tim Hildebrand is your trainer. Kind of walk us through what that first week of training looked like.
First week of training, it was, I really, because I was coming in with prior experience, I really had to throw that out the window and, reminded myself, like, this is different. It's different than what I was doing before. And I sort of just came into it with like a clean slate. I think that big part of me actually having success earlier on.
Being coachable, right? 100%.
Yeah. There was definitely, like a moment or two where I came into it, and maybe Tim would be like, no, don't do it like that. Do it like this. And I'd be like, oh wait, no, but like, I know what I'm doing. It's like, no. Like,
we all go through that, right?
Like my ego, because ultimately being coachable is such a huge part of actually finding success.
Yeah, we appreciate you being coachable, because that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, is just to be humble, and accept some constructive criticism, because ultimately the whole idea behind it is to help you sell more,
Right.
That's fantastic. Tim, kind of take us through what you do in that first week when we onboard a new agent, just to help the audience understand. Maybe they've never saw our content before. What steps do you take to train up an agent so that they're sales ready within 10 days or less?
Well, we are going to go over a number of bullet points, things specifically before the script on that first meeting, to help you understand exactly what goes into getting people on the phone and keeping them on the phone. It's super crucial. If you don't do those things, you don't have conversations. And so, taking notes really heavily there. But then from then on out, it's all on the script and tonality and the agent's willingness to be coachable and to listen and to apply, and then to go and train and record themselves and come back, on the next session. It's very impactful. It's extremely powerful, and it's not too long either. I mean, I think I've heard you say it, David, that it's, it's a difficult business, but it's not complicated.
Right. Yeah.
But
and
having the trainer there is, I would say, extremely important. Not, I think in Simone's case, to his credit, it was his coachability. He really took the, suggestions, I guess, from me, and he was able to apply them very quickly in a talented manner. So that goes to his credit for sure.
Yeah. We're exceptionally appreciative of that, Simone, because, and you're not this, but if you were a turd, it's really hard to polish a turd up, right? It's like a turd's a turd. But if you're good and you've got the underlying characteristics and you're coachable, like, the sky's the limit, and so we really thank you for that. And I'll speak to this too for everybody. One of the big things we did at DeFord Insurance Group at the beginning of 2023 is we totally recreated the training protocol. It used to be come on board, lots of training, great training, but very much self-sufficient. You had to apply yourself. You didn't have immediate access to the level we do now to a trainer to coach you, to script, to role play. And I went all in the training direction as a decision from agency. Brought Tim on, as well as a couple other trainers too. And it's been amazing, the difference in the results that we've seen from agents, that I'm sure some of them would have had success, but maybe some of them wouldn't, all because there's this intensive level of coaching, this training, the support that's unparalleled to any other agency in the business. And if you need training and support, I mean, that's exactly what it's all about. So Simone, to bring you back in here, I'm curious, you get through the training, you're self-generating final expense leads right on Facebook. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you choose to self-generate leads as opposed to just buy them?
Well, a few reasons. I a big part of it is just having control over the process that your lead is actually going through. And I think that's a really big part of understanding where, you know, your next potential client is coming from. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because sometimes if you buy leads from a lead vendor, there might be certain language that they're using that you're not using when you actually talk to them. And so when you say final expense, you're like, what? But if you say, you know, state burial program, then like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then also it's just way cheaper. It's considerably cheaper. I mean, if you're buying leads from a lead vendor, they're a business, you know, so they're of course going to, you know, mark up the lead cost a little bit, because they're providing service. Right. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest reasons: just having control, knowing where, how the lead is getting, you know, into your spreadsheet or CRM, and the cost.
Gotcha. So control, much lower price for sure when you're doing it wholesale instead of retail, and knowing what the lead says, controlling the copy, the creative, that does matter. Especially there's a lot of vendors, you just wonder, what are they actually selling me? Because it doesn't sound like a lead. Not with us guys, but there's other agencies out there that say they're selling leads, but that's just a bunch of names in a phone book as far as we're concerned. So what was it like in that first week of writing business? Like, take us through kind of your experience. What led you to success right away early on, after you got done with the training? If you kind of hit on the high notes of, you think, what got you to the point of getting results?
I think being in that first week, I was definitely watching some of your videos on YouTube, and there's sort of like this mantra that I realize is pretty consistent for almost anybody that's been successful in this business, which is that you just need to do a few very simple things in order to achieve success. I think that first week I was getting a little bit lost in like the realm of marketing and figuring that stuff out. And really just coming back to, I just need to call people. I need to just have leads coming in, and I just need to, you know, be able to actually have talk time on the phone.
Right.
And when I really realized that, and put all of my efforts towards those just few things that actually generate sales, that's when I started making sales.
Focusing on the fundamentals, right? I mean, that's everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Tim, your thoughts on kind of how an agent can have a good first week after getting trained? Like, what steps do they need to take, if you can kind of categorize it like top 3, to give themselves the highest chances of taking what they've learned and turning it into sales?
Well, they need to be buying leads, as simple as that sounds. They need to do that immediately after the training, so that all of the things that I'm telling them are fresh and in their mind, and like instantly. You wait 1 or 2 weeks after that, some of the mojo kind of will wear off from the training, and you'll probably want to dip back into some training that we might not be able to give you 3-4 more days. You know what I mean? So doing it right after is really important. When you're fresh from, you've got everything that I can give you, my whole vibe, my whole, you know, pressure and all that stuff that we put out there. And then really, like Simone is saying, you just need to make more calls than you thought, and pick up the phone quickly, and treat every lead that comes in as, like, you know, the potential piece of gold that it is. And otherwise just keep digging. You know, don't take these long extended breaks. Don't let lunch take 2 hours. You know, simple like working habits that seem to be lost on a lot of people. Just work like it's a job, you know, nothing too complicated. Just work it and call more. Yeah.
So I laughed at the fundamentals here. It's like, what's the secrets of success? What do I have to do about it? Work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick the phone up and hit the dot. It's funny. We laugh, but it like, there's all these other things, like we call them avoidance behavior, right? Like getting this ready or aggressively studying to make sure it's like, it's never going to be perfect. At some point you have to take that leap of faith, right? And just pull the trigger and damn the torpedoes and have a little faith, but and you'll get better really quick. I'm sure, Simone, you've probably learned as much just doing it as well as just obviously in preparation. And thank you for taking massive action, Simone. We appreciate it a lot. Not everybody does what you do, and we can't thank you enough for getting out there, taking the training and putting it into effort. It means the world to us. Both Tim and I are highly appreciative of it. And thank you for being here, you too, Tim. And for those of you out there in the audience, if y'all are interested in learning more about how DeFord Insurance Group works, very simple. Here's what you need to do. Just go to daviddeford.com/FAQ. If you want to learn how selling final expense works with us, you'll see a section called final expense. Click that, read through that. And we do a little something unusual. We don't just take anybody with a pulse. We do an application and interview process. So you'll have to apply. You'll see how to do that once you're on that page. Then we'll do an interview with you if we feel like it's a mutual match, because we want to make sure that you, the agent, are a great match mutually for both of us. We're a match for you and you're a match for us, because we want a long-term successful and profitable relationship mutually. So check that out, daviddeford.com /FAQ. And Tim, thank you. And special thanks to you, Simone. Appreciate you being willing to come on here.
Thank you.